The Getaway by Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's the album we have today, and this is actually an album that came out fucking ages ago, and it's an album that I haven't heard in a very long while, but Red Hot Chili Peppers is one of my favorite bands, and honestly, even though this album has, John, or Josh rather than John, because Frusciante had left the band, and this was the second album with Josh, I'm quite fond of it, especially like re-listening to it years later. Like when it came out, I liked it, I vibed a lot with it, but I think that it did age quite well. Like, I think people are starting to realize, and I mean, given how big the album actually was, because the album was way bigger than I think anyone actually anticipated. Back when it came out, I think it wasn't that liked and it wasn't that famous or whatever, but I think that with the years it went on. I think that this is the same situation with Portnoy and Mangini with Dream Theater. It's like people fucking hate the replacement or whatever, and then as years go on and as the replacement gets replaced by the original member, a lot of people are able to look back and realize, actually, you know what, they did an amazing fucking job. So yeah, honestly, I had this album on repeat, especially on summer it wasn't mornings, it was like night to morning, that sort of sunrise type hour. I had this album a lot, and it's an actual vibe. I think Red Hot Chili Peppers does a lot of like summer vibe type albums, and I find that really funny because a lot of them depend on, like, they have different summer vibes, but they're all pretty much summer vibes, right? This one is more like subdued, is more just chill, more straight up just sitting there and again like watching the sunrise type thing. It's honestly, it's a really good album, just full of vibes and whatnot. Something that I've realized actually is that as much as I like the lead singer and whatnot, and as much as I think that everyone sort of tends to focus on that, by far the most important people on the band are Flea and Cheth. Like, by far, they have a crazy impact on the sound and the vibe of Red Hot Chili Peppers. Pretty much, drumming and bass is why you listen throughout the entire fucking album, right? Like, that's what you focus on, that's where your focus is. That is basically what builds the song, that's the foundation of the song, the base of the song. It's basically these two instruments that set the mood, set the atmosphere, that make the entire vibe of any song ever that they make, right? And then the singing and the guitar are usually just there to complement each other and complement on top of the foundation of the song. Now, I know that people love Frusciante. Josh was great. I'm sorry. The albums that he worked on, I think they were really good, right? His guitar accompanied, especially the singing, really fucking well. I understand why people like Frusciante, but I think Josh was also really good, honestly. And in this album, you see that quite a bit. Like, the guitar is not very focused, it doesn't shine as much as with Frusciante, sure, but it's there, and it almost does the exact same job as the bass and the drums do, right? It's just there to accompany the rest of the song and build the song, give it flavor and give it a certain atmosphere and a certain level that otherwise, like, the song would just feel way emptier without the guitar. And the guitar doesn't need to have an immense presence in order for it to have such a great impact. And I think that this album, and Josh was always criticized because his guitar doesn't sound as good as Frusciante, and it's not as memorable or whatever. And in a way, I agree. I think Josh's guitar is not as memorable as a lot of the songs that Frusciante actually wrote, and the guitar parts that I actually wrote. I get that. But I don't think that you needed to, because I think that with Red Hot Chili Peppers, and as I've mentioned, Flea and Chad make the band, right? So as long as you can make your guitar be in tune with their entire vibe, I think it sounds great. And I think that the guitar here, while it is far more subdued, it doesn't have that crazy impact, it also complements the entire album, and especially the singing. The guitars complement the singing in this album so freaking well. And, well, speaking of the singing, yeah, I mean, look, I think that was never really the strongest part of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I think that, Anthony's singing isn't... It's not great, but it doesn't need to be great. I think it's okay, and I think it's fine. And honestly, oftentimes, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a person that usually pays attention to the lyrics all that much. I sometimes do, but I prefer usually the instrumentals and whatnot. But yeah, I think this is one of those cases where you don't need to pay attention to the lyrics in order to enjoy the songs, right? Like, I think that they could just replace the singing with like fucking Simlish or whatever, and it would still work, and people wouldn't really feel that it's out of place, or that for the most part that it sounds bad or whatever, you know. So much so that they did that with the song Around the World, I think it was, where a part of the song is just like random sounds and it still sounds good, right? Because again, you know, the fucking bass and the fucking drums make this fucking band. I'm telling you, like, they are by far the best part of the band. Especially because the bass sounds like the bass sounds like a lead guitar, right? The bass sounds like the one dictating the vibe, dictating how you should feel about the song and the pace and everything. It's really great, and then like the drums just complement it so well and feel the rest of the bass. So both of these instruments together, Shad and Flea together, do such an amazing job at creating this entire atmosphere of what makes Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? I think that if they were to substitute one of these members, it would have been way bigger of a difference than if they were to substitute, you know, Josh or Anthony. Like, I mean, they did substitute Frusciante with Josh, and then Josh with Frusciante again, right? And the impact wasn't as big as if they did Flea or Shad. Like, trust me, these two members make the fucking band. As for this album more in specific, again, I think that it just aged quite well with time, and I do like the sort of, again, very subdued nature. It doesn't feel like it really wants to be super. It's not jazzy, but, you know, like funky, you know, which is a component that a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers albums have. It's funky, but it's way more subdued. There's you know, again, summer vibes, but it's super subdued and whatnot, and I like that. I think it feels way more mature. And then you have the songs that are a bit more toned down. They're almost, I guess, acoustic by the Red Hot Chili Peppers standards, if you can call them acoustic. And then we have, honestly, a tradition that I've seen in a lot of other albums, which is like usually a 6-minute long song that tends to be a bit more outside of the box, a bit more experimental by Red Hot Chili Pepper standards, be it Dreams of Samurai. Quite enjoy the song, especially enjoy the song coming into Dreams of Samurai, which was also another, like, I wouldn't say acoustic song, but it sounds like, you know, 70s rock more than, you know, the rest of the album, which sounds more like Red Hot Chili Peppers pretty much. They have a very, very unique sound. That's something I like about this band. They have a very unique sound, which is, you know, why you either, I mean, they're so big because they're appealing and they're unique and everything, but it's also the type of thing of, you either like them or you don't. Like, I think that with this band, it's kind of hard to just like them the same way that you like a lot of other artists, where you listen to one of their songs and then, oh, this song is so catchy, I'm gonna listen to everything they have. I think with Red Hot Chili Peppers, while you do have that to a certain degree, it's also to a certain point where you do definitely have that sort of their best songs, and especially their best albums. I've heard a lot of their discography. I think I've heard everything from their discography, actually. And let me tell you, a lot of their albums and a lot of their songs, even the most critically acclaimed and most successful ones, and this is another example, a lot of songs in this album just get better the more you listen to them, because a lot of them aren't super catchy once you first listen to them. Of course, that, you know, usually the singles that come out, like Dark Necessities, those are always super catchy, you know, Can't Stop from By the Way, Snow from Stadium Arcadium, right? All of those are always super catchy, but the rest of the songs can be a bit more unapproachable. But once you start listening to them more, it gets to the point where the songs that are released as singles almost aren't as good as the rest of the songs in the album. You know, Stadium Arcadium is a perfect example. They made video clips for Amp the Bump and Danny California. Those are my two least favorite songs of that entire album. You know, and it's like a 20-song album. So, yeah, you know, like, this song is pretty much the same. I think Feasting on the Flowers is probably my favorite song. It's a very, like, funky-ish vibe to it. You know, it's very, you know, I like that quite a lot. Goodbye Angels was also a really great song. I really like that. And the Getaway, the title track, is also really fun. It's really funky. I think introduces the you know, album very well. It introduces everything super well, because it sort of creates this funky but subdued type of environment for the album, type of ambient for the album, which is exactly what the album is. So yeah, overall, honestly, I already liked this album quite a lot. I know that it wasn't exactly the most acclaimed album, especially by the fans once it came out, because Josh, and people are like, they weren't sold on the idea of Josh or whatever. But I think, I mean, it's been 8 years, I think, almost 9 years since this album came out. Wow, time travels. I listened to it a lot when it came out. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it just got better with time. And I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a pretty solid 9 out of 10.